The girl wanted to help her dad fix his garden, but things went wrong when she accidentally cut down his favorite tree. She found something hidden under it, which scared her. Mia was struggling with the sadness of losing her mother, but she noticed that her father was having an even harder time without his partner. So, the young student decided to take a break from school and go home to help her father, not realizing she would soon regret it. The day after she arrived home, her father shared his big plans. "I want to rebuild the garden," he said. Since the garden had always been Mia's mother's pride and joy, Mia started working on it right away, clearing out the plants and flowers. But there was one problem. There was a big old tree in the way. Mia tried to push it over but couldn't. "There must be something I can use," she thought as she looked around the garden. Suddenly, some of the roots were exposed and Mia smiled. However, when Mia's father saw what she did, he reacted differently than she expected. He was furious and asked, "What have you done?" Mia didn't know how to respond. She tried to calm him down, but he only became more anxious. Suddenly, he grabbed Mia's arm and pulled her away. Mia was confused and filled with questions. Why was her father acting like this? Had she done something wrong? She tried asking him, but he avoided her questions. Little did she know, she would soon discover the real reason for his behavior. Mia hoped her father's behavior would change for the better, but instead, it got even worse. Things reached the boiling point when Mia was getting ready for bed. As she was getting ready, she heard the door to the garden open and close. She looked up and expected to see the garden light turn on, but it didn't. Mia carefully moved the curtains a little to peek into the garden. She pierced the darkness, and after her eyes adjusted, Mia saw her father knelt down by the fallen tree. His hands were moving, and his body was shaking, but she also noticed that he kept looking around nervously. What was he doing? Mia kept watching, trying to figure out what her father was doing so late at night in the garden. But from her bedroom window, she couldn't see what was going on. Eventually, her father was done and returned inside, and that's when things got even weirder as she could hear him sob downstairs. A new plan quickly formed in her head, and she waited for her father to go to bed. When Mia was sure he was asleep, she went downstairs as quietly as possible. She took a deep breath, opened the garden door, and stepped outside. She hoped her father hadn't heard anything. Mia carefully approached the tree. There were some marks in the sand where her father had sat, as she had seen from her window. Her father had kneeled beside the roots that were revealed after the tree fell. "What were you doing here?" Mia whispered under her breath as she shone her flashlight between the roots. The situation became weirder and weirder as there appeared to be nothing until the light beam moved over the ground before Mia, and suddenly something caught her attention. It appeared out of nowhere and was instantly gone. She quickly realized something reflected the light as she moved it, and when she moved closer, she saw something small stick out. What was it? Was this her father's doing? Her eyes grew as a metallic box was revealed. Without hesitation, she started to clear the dirt around it. She had to know what this was. Within seconds, the box was free, and Mia could take it out. Her mind was racing with questions. The box and its contents rattled, and the sound carried through the silent night. After some struggle, it opened, and the inside dazzled her. For a moment, Mia couldn't do anything but stare at the box's contents. It was filled with jewels and valuable jewelry. Where did they come from? And why were they in a box underneath this tree? Had her father just buried them? But why? Suddenly, her breath faltered as realization kicked in. Her father started behaving weirdly the moment he saw the fallen tree. He pulled her away when she approached him beside the tree. He was busy at the tree in the dark of night. There was only one conclusion. Her father had stolen these jewels. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the thought entered her mind. Her parents weren't rich, so why hide them under a tree if not to hide his crime? She grabbed the box and stood up, no longer caring about being silent. "Dad, come here now," she yelled. When she entered the house, Mia sat down at the table and put the box in front of her. The sound of her father's sobs echoed through the room, and Mia was taken aback. Her crying father made the situation even more confusing, and for a moment, Mia didn't know what to do. She looked from him to the box on the table and hesitated, but then confronted him about her findings. "What is this? Why is it buried in the garden?" she asked, trying to sound determined, but her father continued sobbing for a while until he abruptly stopped. He sniffed one last time, looked up, and stared at Mia. "Why did you dig that up?" he said, ignoring Mia's questions. Tension filled the room. "I want to know what is happening," she demanded. When her father set foot in the room, he froze, remained in place. Now he slowly shuffled to his chair and sat down. "The jewelry inside that box belonged to your mother," her father said with a broken voice. The words hit her like a tidal wave. Tears started rolling down her face as Mia had difficulty processing them. Yet, her father's answer only caused her to have more questions. "But I have never seen them before," she thought out loud. And why did her father behave so weirdly about it? But before Mia could ask that question, her father had already started answering her first thought. He explained that the jewelry originally belonged to Mia's grandmother and that Mia's mother always kept them under lock and key. She only wore them on special occasions. "So that's why you probably never saw them before," he said. Mia listened breathlessly to her father's explanation, but that wasn't all. The old man suddenly stood up from his chair and walked over to the box. Mia watched her father take out all the jewels and valuables and was surprised to see him open a compartment underneath. What was he doing? Mia's breathing faltered for the second time that night as she saw her father take out an urn. "Is that what I think?" she asked breathlessly. Her father wiped away a tear and nodded. He came upon the jewelry when clearing out her side of the closet. It confronted him with her absence, so he planned to bury them with her beneath the tree to create a memorial. Mia couldn't believe what her father revealed. She felt relieved that he wasn't doing anything wrong, but she was saddened that she had spoiled his beautiful plan. Quickly rising, she hurried to her father and embraced him tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, unable to express her remorse for ruining his plan. Suddenly, a thought sparked in her mind. Although the garden was now bare, and she had accidentally removed her dad's favorite tree, it didn't mean they couldn't create a special memorial. Realizing her father had abandoned the idea because the tree was gone, Mia was determined not to let it go. "We're going to make the perfect memorial," she declared, looking into her father's eyes with determination. The following day, Mia and her father worked together to clear the entire garden and begin planting anew. Mia assisted her father in deciding how to honor her mother's memory, and they embarked on the project together. Gradually, the new garden took form, but one crucial element was missing: the metal box. Together, Mia and her father decided to bury it beneath a bonsai tree. Carefully, they placed it in the freshly dug hole, covering it with earth and placing the tree on top. With this act, they completed the garden, marking the end of a chapter in their lives.